In the fall of the House of Usher, Edgar Allan Poe does something far more unsettling than staging a Gothic collapse. He constructs a world so perfectly sealed off from relation, from renewal, from anything genuinely other, that destruction becomes its only possible form of change. The final image, the fissured mansion splitting apart and sinking into the tarn, is not simply symbolic, and it is not merely inevitable. It is the logical outcome of a system that has refused the outside for so long that it can only implode. From the opening paragraph, the story announces enclosure. The narrator approaches the mansion through a landscape that feels curiously airless. A dull sky, decayed trees, a silent tarn. The house itself appears animate, but not alive. Its vacant eye-like windows do not look outward in curiosity. They stare blankly. The building seems less like a structure placed in the world than like a consciousness turned inward upon itself. Even before we meet Roderick Usher, we are inside something that does not breathe. The fissure in the facade, barely perceptible, zigzagging from roof to foundation, is often read as a sign of decay. That is true, but it is not enough. The crack is not simply damage. It is tension held in suspension. The house is not collapsing yet. It is holding itself together through force of habit. What matters is not that the house is weak. It is that the weakness runs through the entire structure, vertically, without interruption. There is no part of the edifice that stands apart from the fracture. It is total. And then Poe tells us something almost offhandedly crucial. The phrase House of Usher refers both to the ancestral line and to the mansion itself. The family and the building are indistinguishable. This is not metaphor layered on reality. It is identity. The house is the family is the house. There is no remainder. The Ushers, we learn, have put forth no enduring branch. Their lineage has been direct, unbroken, and unnervingly narrow. No collateral lines, no diffusion, no branching outward into the wider world. Generation after generation has folded back into itself. The result is purity, but purity of a suffocating kind. A system that does not branch cannot distribute strain. It cannot absorb shock. It cannot adapt. It can only intensify. Roderick Usher embodies this intensification. His nervous condition is described as an extreme acuteness of the senses, an inability to tolerate ordinary stimuli. Light, sound, texture, everything wounds him. But this is not simply hypersensitivity. It is a mind with no insulation. There is no buffer between stimulus and response, no mediating layer. He feels everything too directly because he exists in a closed circuit. His imagination feeds upon itself. He reads morbid texts that echo his fears. He composes music that deepens his melancholy. He inhabits a mental space that reflects and amplifies whatever it contains. The tarn before the house literalizes this dynamic. Its waters are dark, still, and reflective. The mansion gazes into the tarn and sees itself. The tarn gazes back and offers only the mansion. There's no horizon line in that reflection, no larger landscape. The world of Usher is a hall of mirrors with only one object in it. Even nature here does not introduce alterity. It merely duplicates. This is where the story's obsession with doubling becomes more than Gothic ornament. Roderick and Madeline are twins, bound by what he calls sympathies of a scarcely intelligible nature. They are not simply siblings. They are mirrored halves. If we are tempted to divide them into mind and body, intellect and flesh, we quickly see that the division fails. Madeline's illness is physical, but it expresses itself in cataleptic trances that border on the supernatural. Roderick's illness is mental, but it produces palpable terror, trembling, and physical deterioration. They are not complementary opposites. They are repetitions. When Madeline is entombed prematurely in the vault beneath the house, the burial feels less like an attempt to rid the system of corruption than like an effort to seal it more tightly. She is not removed from the structure. She is placed deeper within it. Beneath the narrator's rationalizations and Roderick's trembling explanations lies something simpler. Nothing is ever allowed to leave. The dead remain in the house. The line does not branch. Even decay is internalized. The storm on the final night does not introduce chaos into an ordered world. It externalizes what has been building from the beginning. As the narrator reads aloud from a romance to calm Roderick's agitation, the sounds described in the book, clanging metal, splintering wood, begin to echo through the mansion itself. Fiction and reality converge, but more importantly, the house responds only to its own story. The text within the text reverberates in the physical structure. Once again, there is no outside. Even narrative becomes self-referential. When Madeline reappears, bloodied and staggering, she does not enter from beyond. She emerges from within. Her return is the eruption of what the house has tried to contain. Roderick's long-articulated fear that she was buried alive proves true, but not because of supernatural intervention. His terror becomes self-fulfilling because it has been incubated in a closed system. In a world without external correction, imagination hardens into fact. She falls upon him, and they die together. The line ends in an embrace that is less reconciliation than collapse. The twins, who have never existed apart, cannot survive separation. Their deaths are not tragic accidents. They are structural necessities. A system that has only ever mirrored itself cannot generate a future. And then, the narrator flees. This matters more than it first appears. He is often treated as the rational witness, the stable perspective through which we observe Gothic excess. But his stability is limited. He has been drawn into the atmosphere of the house. He has felt its oppressive force. He has participated in its rituals, carried Madeline's coffin, read the romance aloud as the storm raged. He is not immune. He escapes not because he masters the situation, but because he leaves before the system fully absorbs him. As he looks back, he sees the fissure widen. Under the storm's light and the red glare of the moon, the crack that has always been there finally yields. The walls part. The structure splits. The fragments sink into the tarn. The reflection shatters with the original. The house and its double are annihilated together. It is tempting to call this apocalyptic, but apocalypse implies revelation, the unveiling of something new. Nothing new appears here. The ending does not introduce a force that was absent before. It fulfills the story's internal logic. A world that refuses relation, that recoils from branching, that reflects only itself, cannot transform. It can only implode. Poe's well-known theory of the unity of effect is often invoked to describe the story's careful construction. Every detail contributes to a single emotional impact. But in this tale, unity is not merely an aesthetic principle. It is a pathology. The House of Usher is unified to the point of suffocation. There are no loose threads, no openings, no stray energies. Everything converges, everything tightens. The unity of effect becomes the unity of enclosure. The fall of the house, then, is not simply the destruction of a Gothic mansion or the extinction of a cursed bloodline. It is the inevitable consequence of a structure that cannot tolerate difference. The Ushers have withdrawn from the social world, from branching relations, from renewal. Their house stares only at its own image. Their lineage folds inward. Their fears echo without contradiction. The crack in the facade is not the cause of the collapse. It is the visible sign of a deeper refusal. When the mansion sinks beneath the tarn, it is swallowed by the very mirror it has contemplated for generations. The reflection that once confirmed its existence now becomes its grave. And the narrator, standing at a distance, witnesses not just ruin but erasure. The site where the house stood is absorbed into dark water, depthless and opaque. What remains is not reassurance. The wider world to which the narrator returns is not triumphantly rational. It is simply larger. The story leaves us with a question that lingers long after the image fades. How much enclosure can any system, any family, any mind, any culture sustain before it begins to fracture along a line that has always been there? The House of Usher falls because it has always been falling. The fissure was present from the first glance. The reflection was waiting to swallow the original. And if we find the ending haunting, it is not only because a mansion collapses into a tarn. It is because Poe forces us to confront a more disturbing possibility. That any world which refuses the outside may one day discover that its only form of change is disappearance. So let me ask you this. Do you think the House of Usher collapses because it is cursed, or because it has sealed itself off from the world?